Hey y'all, it's Akira, part of Truth and Love United. What's going on? I'm sorry, I just ain't got the super energetic. I'ma try, but I'm just saying, y'all, this one is about when they see us, so we'll get to it after. So, when they see us, so let me rewind. I'll put a timestamp somewhere. Well, I'll put a timestamp in the description box, or I might make a note of it of when I actually start talking about it, but just a little bit about what I know about this case before I watched all of this. So, oddly enough, I had kind of heard about the story, over the years or whatever. My mom had made me aware of the story. I didn't know details, but I was aware of the general synopsis of these 5 boys went to jail for a crime they didn't commit, and then come to find out years later they were exonerated. But I didn't know details. And then in 2012, a documentary came out about it on Netflix. So I watched the documentary, and I just remember being so sad because it's I couldn't imagine someone stealing my childhood and then not even acknowledging that they stole it. You know what I'm saying? It's, of course, the city. We can say this part now. They ended up getting a $41 million settlement. The 5 young men, men now, got $41 million from the state of New York, or the city of New York, something about New York, but they never acknowledged, the DA's office never acknowledged any wrongdoing. The prosecutor never admitted any wrongdoing. Nobody admitted that they were wrong. And I think that's the part that's so hurtful, so annoying, because money can't buy back your childhood. Money can't buy back time. Money can't buy back all of the physical, psychological, and emotional abuse that these young men went through. So it's easy to throw money at it, but that doesn't solve but so much. You know what I'm saying? I watched the documentary, and it was just very factual. This happened, and then this happened, and just a series of events. And the whole time I'm but how? How did this happen? Not that I'm surprised. Let's be clear. Not that I'm surprised, because race plays a part, but also socioeconomics plays a part as well, right? Because there are Black people who are in jail for things they didn't do. They can't afford to get out on bail, so they're stuck in jail, and then all of these horrific things happen to them, and then we wonder why there are people who maybe started out one way and ended up another way. When you watch this, when they see us, and okay, I'm gonna try. Let's start from the beginning. So in April of '89, these boys go to the park, and they just chilling, wilding out, doing things that as children we did. We hung out with our friends, we kicked it. Now, heckling, that really has never been my thing, but I've seen groups of kids do it before. This group of children, these boys, weren't doing any harm to anybody. They were just being kids. Even just the title, When They See Us, because I was watching Ava DuVernay. I love her. Anything that she does, I will watch. I love her. Because realistically, I'm gonna just keep it a buck. I did not want to watch this at first because it's traumatic, it's triggering, and frankly, I work with too many white folks. I did not want to have an attitude. I really had to remember that I had to talk myself through it before I watched it. If you follow me on Instagram, then you saw, I watched it yesterday. You saw my struggle through the first episode, because it's 4 parts. The first episode was extremely hard. I was extremely angry. The second one, extremely angry. I can't even front. I skipped some parts of the trial because my heart just couldn't take it. The part where they actually say they're guilty, I couldn't take it. I skipped that part. Episode 3, for the most part, I was okay. It was sad because, you're watching them try to adjust. And I really like what Ava did with that one, because, well, we'll come back to that. And then episode 4, Corey, I lost it. I just completely lost it. Boohoo crying, snot everywhere, just everywhere. But episode 1. So if I keep looking to the sides because I have notes, I didn't want to have to watch it twice. So I took notes about, how I felt about things. So episode 1, literally the first thing I just keep writing down is, I don't like how they're talking to people. Let me rewind. there are people who will try to dismiss this and say, oh, this was 30 years ago. Such things like this don't happen anymore. Listen, Black and brown people are profiled every day. Black and brown people are made to feel like they don't belong in certain places every day. Black and brown people, our skin, the way we look is inherently threatening to some people. So just off the fact that I'm Black, some people will look at me crazy. And I know that's a hard pill for some people to swallow because they don't get it, because they don't deal with that. I don't want to tell you, but it is what it is. And to try to act like it's not real is ignorant and is insulting, and let's just not. Let's just not. But anyway, so my first note is literally, I don't like the way they're talking to them like that. And let's just be for real. The police, we can have a whole nother video about the police, because frankly, if you know, I understand that there are policemen who think they are good. And like they look at themselves in two ways. Like it's good police and bad police. I feel like if you are a good police person, but you're not calling out the bad ones, then you're just as bad. How many times through the first episode do we watch police? Like, it's one scene in particular that I'm thinking about when I think it was Anton, was he the baby? I don't remember, but it was one where his mother was really sick. So or maybe it might have been Kevin. But his mother was really sick, and so she left. And this Black police officer told the detectives, like, yeah, his mom left. And they was like, oh, is it snowing outside? It must be Christmas. Because he knew he shouldn't have been talking to that baby without his parent. But because, you know, a lot of times, and this goes back to the conversation we had last week about surviving versus thriving. A lot of this had to do with lack of knowledge, lack of education, and how the judicial system works. Oh, and that's on purpose. They don't want us to know our rights. And when I say us, you know what I mean. When they see us, they don't want us to know our rights. They don't want us to know what they are allowed and not allowed to do. Because guess what? I have issues with Yusuf's mama, but one thing I was rooting with her with was Yusuf's mama was like, what you're not going to do is question my baby without me being present. That's what you're not going to do. And you know what she did? She politely gathered her son and got him up out of here. And realistically, that's why the police were pissed off, because she was like, you're not going to treat my son any kind of way. And that's why I had the one boy say that Yusuf was there. I didn't even realize, though, until when they see us, that these boys, except for Yusuf and Corey, these boys didn't even know each other. The way that it was always presented, and I don't think, it's been a while since I watched the documentary. If I can find it, the documentary, I think I said before, was on Netflix. So if I can find it, I might have to watch it again, because that one's less traumatic, child. But I don't think they mentioned that these boys don't even know, they didn't even know each other. And the media, you know, I'm getting ahead of myself. So this woman gets raped. Now, that is horrible. Horrible. Like, that's not an argument. But right before this woman got raped, right, a Black woman was raped and thrown off a building in Harlem.
So as a prosecutor at the time, one of the things that I looked into when I first started in journalism was the number of rapes, brutal rapes, that occurred in the city the same week that Trisha Miley, the Central Park jogger, was raped. And what I found is that there were at least 5 other women across the 5 boroughs of New York City that had been brutally raped in the manner that Trisha Miley was.
And what's actually crazy is that if you do a little bit of research, you'll find out that someone was raped 2 days before this woman was in Central Park. And I want to say the guy who we found out eventually raped her was the guy who did it. But he was never looked into, never taken seriously as a suspect, which is why he was able to go on later and rape the lady in Central Park. Which, if the police just did simple research, but anyway.
But none of those stories got any kind of coverage. I found a couple of police blotter notes in the New York Post and the Daily News and the New York Times. All these other women were African American. One woman was thrown off the roof of a building.
I remember.
Right? And she survived, actually, so if people are interested. But she survived, and none of them got the coverage that Trisha got. And then this woman gets raped in Central Park, and it's just like the crime of the century. Now, this is not to dismiss or discredit what happened to this woman, because it was terrible. It was horrible. And the man that did it is in jail like he deserves to be. But
when you say it's not about race, it's hard for me to wrap my head around stuff like that when something very similar happened to someone that looks like me, and nobody cared. Nobody in the media thought to cover it, which is crazy. But anyway, so this woman gets raped, and they instantly profile everybody in the park. We see the boys, you know, messing with bikers and all of that stuff, and we see like the one dude get hit by some other group of boys that they had nothing to do with this. I don't even like calling them Central Park Five, because that's what they call them, like these young men. We're just gonna call them these young men. I don't know what else to call them. We see this man get beat up, but it wasn't by this group of young boys, right? I'm trying to figure out how did we automatically assume that it was a black person? How? Mind you, one of the boys wasn't even black. He was Hispanic. But I guess we all brown, so we just look alike, right? We just all look alike. And when you look at it, the guy who did it, now, the lady, from my understanding, from what it looked like, she was unconscious. And she doesn't know who did what to her, which, again, that's a traumatic experience. And a lot of times our minds, you know, we tend to try to block out trauma to save ourselves. So, I mean, I understand, like, I don't blame her for this. Oh, it's a list of people I blame, but she ain't really on the list because she don't know. Like, she didn't know. But I feel a way about, just off the top, this woman. What's the lady name? Hold on. Let me look at my notes. My issue is with Linda Fairstein. Let me tell you about old girl. Old girl is the one who was just like, oh, just round up all the black people. They had something to do with it. Just doesn't matter. It's all the black people. She never even thought that someone else could have done it. She didn't. It's like she zeroed in on these boys. If you watch it, it's like, I don't understand how so many people just went along and get along. I don't understand how so many people can just, and you know what's crazy? I find it interesting when people say that the justice system is broken. I don't think the justice system is broken. I think the justice system is working exactly the way it was designed to work. I'm a history nerd. If you watch 13th and watch how slavery transformed into the prison system, if you look at the school to prison pipeline, if you look at all of these factors, the way this is designed, it was designed exactly for these boys to get tripped up like this. And the problem is, like I said, their parents weren't educated and they didn't have enough money to be able to actually fund a proper defense for their children. Now, who was it? The boy from Dawson's Creek. He was a good lawyer. It's a scene between him and the prosecutor. So I'm getting ahead of myself. So Linda is the one who's basically railroading these boys, right? And she gives all the evidence to the evidence. Ain't no evidence except their confession tapes. Which, if you listen, so I had actually seen bits and pieces of the actual confession tapes before this happened. So my heart couldn't take watching all of it like fully play out, because I remember watching it thinking like, we don't even know what they really did to these boys to get them to this place. And when you see like the baby got his eyes swole shut, this other one, they beating him up, yelling at him, and these are children. And you got to think about it, these are kids who you can tell ain't really hard like that. You know what I'm saying? Just because you in the hood don't mean that you a hard kid. It doesn't mean that you out here been slinging crack since you was 3 and, you know, your mama left you on the corner and you ain't never know your daddy. Like, that's not everybody's situation in the hood. Most kids, that's not their situation in the hood. But because of where you live and what your address is, people try to play you. And we see that on full display in this movie. And the whole time, I'm just like, yeah, houseway. Like, literally, I have houseway 500 times. Houseway. How did we get to a place where we're even pressing charges? Then, y'all's president. I promised myself I was not going to go off about Trump. Okay. Donald Trump, as a private citizen, thought it was appropriate to take out an ad. I'm sorry, 4 ads equating to $85,000. He thought it was appropriate to take out these ads and to want to bring back the death penalty to kill these young boys. Mind you, they ain't saying nan inside of a courtroom. All we're going off of is what the police and the media have said. And the media played a huge part in this. We talk about how, you know, how the media shows us unfairly and things like that. This is a perfect example of how the media shows us unfairly. I find it very hard to believe if Brad and John and Trevor and whomever else was 5 young white boys in the park and this happened to a black woman. I find it very hard to believe that this would be the same response. Y'all would have hid their names. Y'all would have hid their faces. They would have been 5 lone wolves who we just don't know what's going on. And y'all would have done everything in y'all power to try to prove them innocent or to try to give them the benefit of the doubt. And unfortunately, we don't get that. And when we try to say stuff about it, y'all call us crazy. Y'all say we race baiting. All of this extra. And I don't like being that person who's like, everything's about race. Everything's not about race. But when it comes to the way that black people are treated in this country, especially in the judicial system, it's just like, it's crazy. And our color and our financial status plays a huge part in it. The numbers of black people in jail are highly disproportionate to our white counterparts. Period. You can look that up. It just is what it is. Considering the percentage of us that are in this country, the percentage of us in jail is just crazy because we live in highly policed areas. But that's a whole nother, and actually that's again on display in this movie. Like all the things that we've been saying for years have been issues are on full display in this movie. So episode 1 is basically them getting these boys to these fake confessions, morphing the story so it can fit within their timeline. What broke my heart the most is Antron McCrary and his father, and how they will use your past against you. Mr. McCrary had been on the straight and narrow for 5 years, kept his nose clean, doing what he was supposed to be doing. And in that moment, they found a weakness in him and they exploited it. And because of his father's lack of knowledge and his father's fear, he caused his son to lose 7 years of his life, 7.5 years of his life, and be branded a rapist. And then he left his family. Last week when we were talking about drugs and we were talking about how, the ripple effects, court and jail has those same type of ripple effects on the black family, right? He couldn't handle the fact that his actions led to his son being in the position that he's in, and he left. And I mean, in the end, it's sad because if you watch it, I watched the interview of the real Antron. He said he never forgave his father. He didn't make peace with him before he died. He looked at him like he was a coward. And it makes me sad because that's a pain he still carries with him. You can tell just the way he talks about it. That's something that still bothers him. That's a pain he still carries. And it just made me so sad to think about how, again, because we don't have the knowledge or the resources, and you don't know what you don't know until it's time for you to know it. You know what I'm saying? If that man ain't about that life no more, he'd have kept his nose clean. And it's a different situation when you know you didn't do what they're accusing you of. Like when you know you did it, I feel like you move a little different. But when you know unequivocally that you are not guilty of what you're being blamed of, that has to be a whole different level of horror, right? So we watch these boys, we watch, them lie. We watched the police lie. And then the part that made me it's a million parts that made me boo-hoo cry. The part when they are all in the cell together talking, and I'm sorry I lied on you. Like, I'm sorry, they all made us lie. Why do they make us lie? Why they treat us like this? How else would they treat us? Like, I lost it when he said that. I lost it because it's facts. It's facts. I talk a lot about legacy, and I talk a lot about the type of family I want. But these type of stories and these type of situations makes me not want to have children, makes me not want to have sons, makes me not want to have daughters. I don't want to have sons because somebody might kill them. I don't want to have daughters because when they kill them, they're going to care even less because we don't advertise. We don't talk as much about when the black women get murdered. So it's just like, whew, let me come back. So that's episode 1. Episode 2 is the trial. Dawson Creek, I don't remember his name, but you know the dude from Dawson's Creek. If you old enough, if you young enough, you know. If you're old enough to remember Dawson's Creek, he was the friend, the dark-haired dude, the dark-haired white dude. There's only a few white people on here who are decent. He might actually be the only, no, we got 2. It's him and then Roberts. Roberts was the one who was in jail with Corey Wise. He was the real one, but we'll get there. So the Dawson Creek, the attorney, when he pointed out the fact that Mind you, let me tell you how dirty the lawyer for the state was. She didn't even tell them about, and I think you don't even realize, like I said, it's a lot of little things I didn't realize until I watched When They See Us. I didn't realize that they didn't know about the DNA in the sock until it was brought up in court. That's crazy. And in the beginning, he asked her, can you at least just give us a fair trial? Like, you know you want to railroad these boys. Give us a fair trial. And at this point, what pissed me off the most, and it was the part where the dude from Dawson's Creek and the lawyer lady from the state was having a conversation. She was like, this ain't about justice. This is about politics. Excuse you? So you about to let these boys die in prison? Die in prison when we both know if these were if these boys were people of prestige, if these boys came from money, if these boys were not black and brown, you wouldn't even be rocking this way. And that's what pisses me off so bad. Let me come back. So they have the whole thing, and like I said, I couldn't watch them be tried. I mean, watch the actual guilty verdicts, especially when we see where none of it makes sense. Outside of their confessions, nothing makes sense. And I know it's hard to see, and this is how you could tell, like, we still live in, back then was a time where we just kind of, why would the police lie? I don't understand. Why would the police lie? Why would the media lie? Because I was still just staying in my mama's stomach when all this happened. But you think about how there were so many people who just automatically believed what was being said because the media said it, because the police said it. Why would the police lie? Because the police don't want to do their jobs. Because the police, if you know what the snippet, I don't know if you know, the whole origins of the idea of the police were slave catchers. When slaves would run away, the idea of police officers was birthed from the idea of slave catchers. Google it if you don't believe me. So when that's the foundation of something, the foundation of what they do is not to protect or to serve. Well, you know what? It's to protect whoever the highest bidder is, and it's to serve those who are lining their pockets. Period. Like, and I know for some people that's real hard to hear. That's fine. And I have people who have been in the police in my family, so let's not even go there either. It just is what it is. Everyone's experience with the police is different, and those experiences shape how you view the police. And let's be clear, I've had some good interactions with police as well. I was robbed at gunpoint at one point. Somebody stole my car, and I had to deal with the police. Even though, in the end, I still didn't feel like they really did their jobs. But that's a whole nother video. I have had pleasant and not so pleasant interactions with the police personally. So again, this isn't all based off me seeing other people. This is based off personal experience as well. And guess what? I wasn't doing nothing, because that's another thing. Oh, what was you doing? We should be don't get me started. Anyway, we're here about When They See Us. So when they get out of jail, I think Ava did a really good job at showing how we have a bad habit of branding people who are ex-felons. We give them a scarlet letter and we don't allow them to move on with their lives. We paint them with this brush forever of like, oh, well, since you did this one thing this one time, forever now you just always have to be stuck with this brand, and that's not okay. If a person has paid their debt to society and they've served their time, it shouldn't matter if they've been to jail before. It shouldn't matter if they're a felon. If they're still dangerous, then they need to be in jail. Period. If they're not dangerous, if they're not a menace to society, then why does it matter if they're felons or not? And I think we watched Raymond in particular struggle with that, because in the beginning he was trying to keep his nose clean, but when we watched him go to interviews and he was talking to his PO about how you got to check this, because if you're working with this one, you're going to jail, and if you work with her, you're going to jail. If you do this, you're going to jail. If your job don't let you got to find another job. Like, we make it so hard. We make it so hard for people who want to move on and better themselves. So it's almost like, I'm not gonna excuse him becoming a drug dealer, but it feels like a setup. Like, what else? If you don't especially in their particular case, they were taken away at 14, 15, and 16 years old. Those are formative years when you're still trying to figure out how to do things, right? We watched them all. Yusuf, Antron, Raymond, and Kevin. We watched them struggle, how to learn how to use the computer, how to, apply for a job, because most of them weren't even old enough to do that part yet. We watch them struggle and try to figure out how to do these things. And as a society, we have to do better when it comes to people who are ex-felons. This is one thing I always respected about Nipsey Hussle, was that when he had the marathon store, he only hired felons, or from my understanding, he hired felons from his neighborhood. People who other places just wouldn't even give them the time of day. And it's like, but why though? If they're good at what they do, and they deserve the opportunity to be given another chance, right? And if they do something again, then put them back. Like, it just is what it is. I don't understand. But anyway, so we watch Raymond try to make it work, and then he ends up slipping. Oh, and then Raymond's stepmama, let me tell you, she lucky, because she was just doing the most. She was so rude, so disrespectful. This is where I struggle with as a child, like, as, not a child, but as someone who is a child to parents, right? If your significant other, as my parent, if your significant other is disrespectful, I don't care that that's your significant other. They're going to catch these verbal hands, period. I'm not going to put my hands on you unless you put your hands on me. But you're going to catch these verbal hands because you're not going to be disrespectful to me. I wouldn't allow my parents who birthed me, whose sperm and egg came together to create me, I wouldn't let them disrespect me. So why would I let you random extra add-on +1 disrespect me? You sound crazy. We watch him try to figure this out. I feel like Yusuf did a really good job of figuring it out. And because he had a really strong support system, while he was on the inside, you know, he got with the dudes who were part of the nation. And I mean, based on his last name, I kind of figured he was Muslim. But his mother, you know, kept him focused. Even though, we can talk about his mama for a second. And it kind of goes in hand with Corey Wise, which his whole, I think, majority of my tears, like, not angry tears, but just like boohoo sad tears, came from the Corey Wise part of the doc, which was the 4th part. Because one, he wasn't even supposed to be there. Which, how many times are we just trying to be a good friend and then get caught up in some foolery, and we were just trying to be a real one? It just made me think about my friends, and it made me think about if my friend at that age had gotten arrested, would I have gone? My name he said his name not even on the list. But because he was a good friend, and because he had a mother who she was another one who just didn't understand the system, didn't understand how things work, didn't have help, didn't have support, but she just seemed overwhelmed. No judgment on her. She just seemed overwhelmed by everything. She was pregnant when it happened, I think. Yeah, because she was pregnant when it happened. He had a little brother, and then he had a trans sister, which back in the 80s, we didn't have the proper terminology back then. Well, y'all, not me. Y'all didn't have the proper terminology back then. I couldn't imagine, like, all of that happening. I'm losing my one son because now he wants to be a girl. I'm losing my other son is gone because he's in jail. And then I got this baby and I don't have help. And I'm overwhelmed by everything. I got to try to take care of this one, make sure his mind is good, all of this stuff. Then they kept moving him further away from his mother. And it's just like, I was going off about Yusuf's mama. Let me come back. So, I understood why. I'm not a parent, but I understand why she was the way she was. Like, she wanted Yusuf to be focused. She wanted, when he came out, he knew what he was coming out for. He had a plan, so we ain't got to deal with this no more. I understand. But considering the whole reason Corey is in this is because of your son. Because of your son. Because based on the way the movie showed it, now this could be wrong. This could be just something they played up for the movie. But the whole reason Corey was even in the park was because of Yusuf. Corey was with the cute little girl. Oh, did I break my nail? Okay, no, I did. Corey was off with the cute little girl. I don't recognize her. Do y'all recognize her? Put her name in the comments. He was cute, being cute, eating chicken with her. And then he said, yo, let's go, whatever. And he was being a rider for his friend. And next thing we know, he does the most amount of time out of everybody, which is crazy. And then when you watch him be abused, we watch him get beat, we watch him be assaulted, and we watch the police officers. And this goes back to the police officers. But this is who y'all want us to trust. These are the people. And Because I can't, looking at you, I can't tell if you a good one or a bad one. So as soon as I see you, my wall goes up because I don't know who I'm dealing with in this moment. I'm watching the first place he went with the dude. Let me know what you can do for me. I said what he said. What does that even mean? I've never been to jail, so I don't know what that means. He's a baby. He said I shouldn't even be here. He's a baby. We gotta stop sending kids to Rikers. He didn't murder anybody. I know they said what they said he did. There should be a separate part for dangerous juveniles. There is absolutely no reason that a 16-year-old should be in there with rapists and murderers and all that. Just grown men, period. There's no reason he should have been in there with grown men. And we watched them abuse him. We watched them do unspeakable things to him. And I'm just boohoo, crying, snotting everywhere. And then the first time he put in for the transfer, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, he gonna get close to his mama. He ended up further away from his mama. But at the second place, that's where he meet Roberts. I'm like, okay, cool. He got somebody who's kind of looking out for him. He in solitude, but at least he's safe. He's protected. But I've actually I read about solitude once before because one of my favorite episodes of SVU, there's an episode of, because I don't watch SVU now ever since they got rid of Stabler. I don't really watch it no more. But there was an episode where Stabler, he asked the guy to like lock him up for like a weekend because he wants to see what solitary confinement is like. And the dude was like, I left him in here for he said, okay, I'll leave you in here for 3 days, whatever. And he went bonkers, or he was borderline going bonkers in 3 days. They don't even say how long Corey was in solitary confinement. He just wanted affection. He just wanted, I don't like to be emotional, which is why I didn't do the video yesterday. I did it today when my emotions were settled. He just wanted to know somebody was thinking about him, to know that somebody cared about him. And the fact that Yusuf's mother couldn't give him that, it just broke my heart, because how many people are in jail right now for crimes they did not commit, and they come from families who couldn't afford to get them out on bail, so they had to stay in jail the entire time their trial was going. And then they go to their parole hearings and they're like, well, until you're ready to admit what you did, boy, bye. And you know you didn't do it. How much integrity it takes to be like, I'm not admitting. And this even earlier when the girl tried to give them a deal, he not admitting to nothing we didn't do. How much integrity that takes. And I feel like that speaks to the way that these women, these people, because some of them did have their mother and their father, or Raymond's case, he just had his father and his grandmother. It speaks to the way that these children were raised. And I couldn't imagine knowing my son, knowing my daughter, knowing they couldn't have done this, and so no one listening. And shout out to the mothers, because the mothers were the backbones, right? The mothers were the ones who kept them together, kept them sane. Corey's mother, I felt so bad for her because she seemed so helpless. But did you see when she got Jesus? I mean, I ain't gonna go into a shouting phase, but when she got Jesus, she had like a peace about her, because she was able to hand over those things, like the parts of her that were whatever, she was able to hand those things over. She had a peace about her, and she never gave up on her son. Like, that's one thing I respected about each and every woman that was in these boys' lives. Never gave up on them. Not once questioned if they did what they said they did, because they know who they raised. How many times will the world try to turn us against our own? Like, no, I know who that person is. I know who raised them. I know what they made of, and they didn't do that. Like, it just, so, Corey's whole story had me boo crying. So he with the cool police officer, but then he asked to get moved again, and he warned him. He said, yo, you could end up closer, but you could end up further away. He ended up further away, and I feel like they were doing that on purpose. Like, because they knew who he was, they were doing it to antagonize him. They were doing it to, let me rewind. While he was still with the cool police officer, and I think, because this is where we see the police officer start, like, being nice to him, is when he finds out his sister died. The one person in the whole world who he seemed like he was super close with. Like, he loved his mom, but it's a different relationship with your siblings. And she was murdered. Back then, trans people were not acknowledged as trans people. You know what I'm saying? They weren't acknowledged as people half the time. People would discard trans people like they weren't anything. So Marcy is moving throughout the world, and the only person we know for sure that who loves Marcy is her brother. And while he's away serving time for a crime he did not commit, she dies. Or she's murdered. Like, I couldn't imagine the turmoil that would do to somebody. That's when we see the police officer start being nice to him. Then they move him further away. That police officer who, like, his first day, just off some, because I know who you are and we ain't got no... You know what it reminded me of? Y'all know NWA. You know the After Police song? It's a line that Ice Cube... No, not Ice Cube. Yeah, Ice Cube. It's a line that Ice Cube got in that song where he says... that when the black police is showing out for the white cop. Like, I really feel like that's what that is. Because you had no reason. And the boy who... Let's talk about these actors for a second. The boy who played Corey, because he's the only one who played him... I think his name is Jarrell. He's the only one that played him from childhood to adulthood. The way that he's an amazing actor. And this is why I said, like, you see the hardening of Corey Wise through the situation. But even through his hardness, it's like a softness too, right? Like, you see he has to toughen up and he has to harden because of his surroundings, but there's still that child inside of him that just never got a chance to grow up and never got a chance to be a child. And it's heartbreaking. It's sad to see. And then the police officer get him all beat up, got me riled up, cussing out everybody, calling him everything but a child of God. I'm gonna be honest, I was very upset. And then they move him they just do him dirty. Let me tell you what's messed up. Let me tell you what's messed up about this whole situation. Why did it take the rapist to say, man, he ain't do that, I did that by myself back then. I ain't admit to it because y'all didn't ask me about it. Why did the rapist have more integrity than the police? Be mad at your mama if you mad about the statement. It is what it is. Why did the rapist have more integrity than the police did, than the DA did, than the prosecutors, than the detectives? Why did the rapist have more integrity? Make it make sense, Linda. I was so annoyed. Like, because we see him get into it when he was still with the cool cop. We see him get into it, like, right before his first parole hearing. Like, we see him get into it with this dude, but we don't know who the dude is yet. And then later, we see the dude be like, you know, I gotta admit what I did. Like, you basically on some, like, you still here? Like, why are you still here? Because he had made peace with the fact that he just gonna max out because he's not admitted to something he did. Which, again, integrity. You ain't, like, you can be born with that, but you taught that type of integrity. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was, you know. And finally, when the new DA lady shows, like, well, not even the new one, because I feel like had she caught the case in the beginning instead of that blonde haired lady, this would have went completely different. Like, we would not have been in this situation. She basically showed, like, how y'all steamroll these kids. Oh, that was the sixth one, and they were animals and this and this and that. Listen how they describe us. And I say us because at that age, I hung out with my friends. I kicked it with them. We would hang out till late at night, stuff like that. The only difference between us and a lot of people behind bars is that we didn't get caught. I watched quite a few interviews to try to hype me up to watch this because, again, I didn't want to watch it. I don't need to see black trauma on display. I don't need to see the police being bad actors because that's a norm, right? Unfortunately, that's a norm. Black people being mistreated by the police, that's normal. I still haven't watched Khalif's story because my heart can't I understand those people who say I can't watch it, it's too much for me. My mother is actually one of those people. She's like, I can't watch it, it's too much, because you don't want to be angry. It's triggering and you don't want to be angry, but I feel like it's important. I feel like if you're a person, if you are a Police Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter person, you should watch When They See Us and tell me what you think. I'm not even saying to change your perspective, but I think you would understand why we say Black Lives Matter more if you were to watch When They See Us. Because trust and believe, what happened then still happens now. Still happens. We can yell from the rooftops that we're innocent and nobody listens and nobody cares because of what we look like. And that's not everybody, but there's a there's a nice chunk of people in jail because of what they look like, and they can't afford to get out. It just is what it is. So the rapist has more integrity than police and says, yeah, I was the one who did it, and I did it by myself. And she go to the blonde hair lady, the new DA lady, or the new prosecutor lady, or detective lady, go to the blonde and is like, yo, why'd y'all steamroll these kids? Oh, well, they were guilty of something. It wasn't just a coincidence. Like, taking no ownership in the fact that y'all mishandled, y'all manipulated, y'all abused, y'all disrespected. If someone did you like if someone did her like that, she wouldn't even let that popped off. But because they were young and they didn't know any better, and they came from families who didn't know any better, you took advantage of the situation. We watch her, still whatever. And I hear now, like, the real lady is still alive. And apparently there is they canceling her on Twitter, and she deleted her Twitter, and she stepped down from all these things. Girl, I don't feel bad for you. I don't wish death on you or anything like that, but people need to be held accountable for their actions. You wanted to hold these boys accountable for actions they didn't even commit. So because you couldn't do your job, people get fired every day, B, from jobs because they didn't do their job right. People get canceled every day, B. But that's a whole nother video, because some of y'all be fake canceling people just because it's popular. But anyway, I hope that we can get to a place where healing can begin. Like, if you watch, so let me rewind. So they canceling her. I hope she stays canceled, because you made a come up off the back of these young boys, and nobody ever admitted they was wrong. This is what Donald Trump said when the 2012 documentary came out. This is what he said. These are his tweets from that. Right there. That's his tweets. That's what he said. And a lot of the documentary, or a lot of When They See Us, not a lot, but there are parts of When They See Us that are based directly off of the documentary. So that lets me know how he feels about When They See Us. This situation right here is why I can never with Trump, period, because it lets me know how he feels about people that look like me. So I personally can never with Trump. I have a hard time with people who do mess with Trump. Not a hard time, but it just lets me know where we stand. Because if you're a by any means necessary type of person, I ain't built like that. I don't roll like that. So I have a hard time. Yeah, I guess I do. I have a hard time with Trump people, because you don't care about people who don't look like you. But that's a whole nother video. We won't go there today. Anyway, it was encouraging and sad to see them at the end when they're exonerated, and they give them this money, and you see that these grown men, they haven't gone crazy. Like, and I think for me, that's the hallelujah in it, right? Like, that's the praise God, because all that they've been through, and they still walk around with smiles on their faces. Especially Corey. He walks around with a smile on his face. I hear people speak about him. The actors talk about how they interacted with him, or just how the other ones talk about him. And I'm sure he doesn't seem angry. He doesn't seem resentful. He doesn't seem bitter. And he said he still would have made the same decision. He still would have went with Yusuf, because that was his friend. Even after everything he went through, he still would have went with him. I don't even know. I don't know. It made me sad. It made me more aware, though. It makes me want to make sure that I know all of my rights. It makes me want to make sure that everybody around me, we all know all of our rights, because unfortunately, keep being given examples that show us that the police in general, not them two unicorn situations you're talking about, the police in general I'm not gonna say they don't care about us, but they aren't designed to protect us. They don't have our best interests at heart. So we gotta learn how to protect ourselves, unfortunately. So I know this was a long one. I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to edit it down as much as possible, but I had so many thoughts. I just want to give a quick synopsis for people who couldn't watch it, because it's too hard. I understand. You're not wrong. And I pray that we can get to a place where we never have to see another young brown person, or we never have to see a brown person serve time for a crime they didn't commit. Now, if they did it, that's different. But let's even discuss situations that make that happen. Because even in the Raymond situation, had Raymond not gone to jail the first time, Raymond would have had a clean record, which means that Raymond would have been able to get a regular job, which means that Raymond would have been able to handle himself differently. See how it, once they get you, once that once the judicial system gets you, they hold on to you real tight. That's all I really got to say about that. I am excited for Ava's next project. I think Ava DuVernay is an amazing director. She has so much empathy in her art, and there's such a, her art has a heart to it, and I appreciate that. Like I said, I love history, so I love watching documentaries. I love watching like real life and true crime dramas and things like that. So I really appreciated this one. I'm glad it wasn't called Central Park 5. I like that it was called When They See Us because it added humanity to them. And it made, like I said, I don't want to call them the Central Park 5 because that's what the demons called them. You know, these men were exonerated. These men, despite what the world tried to claim them to be, grew beyond that. And now they are a cautionary tale of what we have to do with our kids, like how we have to treat our kids and how we have to do them, how we have to watch and educate our kids, because you never know when someone might try to manipulate the fact that they aren't aware. So if y'all have made it this far, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Make sure you check out the website, truthandloveunited.com. Sometimes I write. Lately I've been on like a video thing though, so we'll just, we'll just rock with that. And as long as you're running your race at God's pace, then you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Bye, y'all.